This Sunday on episode 23 of Eye on Dependency, reality radio at its best.
In light of recent reports of predators sharing explicit content involving minors online, are parents paying attention to their children's online activity?
Parents have a duty to monitor their children's online activities and access their digital content.
This Sunday on Eye on Dependency, Garth and Natasha welcome Head of the Special Victims Unit of the TTPS, Superintendent Claire Guy-Alleyne, to speak about the partnership with the Counter Trafficking Unit with regard to the care and protection of children, including migrants. How prevalent are offenses against children? What preventative measures are in place to protect all children in Trinidad and Tobago? Listen live from 10 a.m. on I-95.5 FM or watch live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page or YouTube channel. Eye on Dependency, courtesy the Counter Trafficking Unit, Ministry of National Security. We don't just share stories, we change lives.
This Sunday on episode 23 of Eye on Dependency, reality radio at its best.
In light of recent reports of predators sharing explicit content involving minors online, are parents paying attention to their children's online activity?
Parents have a duty to monitor their children's online activities and access their digital content.
This Sunday on Eye on Dependency, Garth and Natasha welcome Head of the Special Victims Unit of the TTPS, Superintendent Claire Guy-Alleyne, to speak about the partnership with the Counter Trafficking Unit with regard to the care and protection of children, including migrants. How prevalent are offenses against children? What preventative measures are in place to protect all children in Trinidad and Tobago? Listen live from 10 a.m. on I-95.5 FM or watch live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page or YouTube channel. Eye on Dependency, courtesy the Counter Trafficking Unit, Ministry of National Security. We don't just share stories, we change lives.
This Sunday on episode 23 of Eye on Dependency, reality radio at its best.
In light of recent reports of predators sharing explicit content involving minors online, are parents paying attention to their children's online activity? Reports of predators sharing explicit content involving minors online, are parents paying attention to their children's online activity?
Parents have a duty to monitor their children's online activities and access their digital content.
This Sunday on Eye on Dependency, Garth and Natasha welcome Head of the Special Victims Unit of the TTPS, Superintendent Claire Guy-Alleyne, to speak about the partnership with the Counter Trafficking Unit with regard to the care and protection of children, including migrants. How prevalent are offenses against children? What preventative measures are in place to protect all children in Trinidad and Tobago? Listen live from 10 a.m. on I-95.5 FM or watch live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page or YouTube channel. Eye on Dependency, courtesy the Counter Trafficking Unit, Ministry of National Security. We don't just share stories, we change lives.
Eye on Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays at 10 a.m. and exclusively on I-95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome to Dependency, right here on 95.5 FM, live on the Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel. Morning, Natasha.
Good morning, Garth. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. Again, to our viewers and viewers online, please like and share and comment to help us keep us on the air. And good morning again to those of you listening to us on I-95.5 FM.
In studio with us, we have none other than Superintendent Claire Guy-Alleyne, no stranger to Dependency, no stranger to you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And Mom is here this morning again to discuss a very important issue that affects all of us. Something, as we like to say, hidden in plain sight. And Mom will also speak about the collaboration with her unit and the Counter Trafficking Unit of Trinidad and Tobago. And we say morning to the unit, the heads, the director and deputy director. Good morning to you all. And Ma'am, good morning to you.
Good morning, God. Good morning, Natasha. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago. It's a pleasure being here this morning.
It's always a pleasure to host you, ma'am. And, the last time you were here, people were asking us, when are they bringing back Mr. Guy? Because you always tell it like it is. And you always you don't pull no punches to let people understand that we're dealing with a problem and we need to fix it. So that is what you're going to hear this morning. Coming in at around 11:15 will be Mr. Alan Balfour, who is artistic director of Trinity Dance Theatre. There was a show last evening at Queen's Hall. It's finishing this evening, and we're going to tell you all about it because part of the proceeds for that will be going to the Counter Trafficking Unit. And also, we'll telling you all about that. And then something that we have been warning you all about. Finally, a parent spoke up about her son and his use of drugs. He got shot last week. You'll hear about that before we go. So, ma'am, as usual, let's start with this. We had to set up a unit such as yours, the one that you're heading. And when I say the state, decided to put up this unit. Now there are units like yours around the world. That's a telling sign that something is wrong with mankind. How did your unit start? Let's start with that. What was the impetus to make Trinidad and Tobago, make the state decide, look, we need a unit like this?
Excellent. And, having a dedicated unit within any law enforcement or any country is critical. When you're dealing with children and these sensitive reports, you must have a dedicated unit to deal with that. Now, in Trinidad and Tobago, let's go back a little bit. In 2015, there was a suite of legislation that came to safeguard our children in Trinidad and Tobago. You had the Children Act, you had the Children Authority Act, you had the foster home and all these kind of acts coming about. So the TTPS, because of the partnership with other agencies and the conventions that Trinidad and Tobago signed on, the TTPS had to form a unit dedicated to do child protection in Trinidad and Tobago. That unit came about in May of 2015. The officers, there was robust training, robust case management around that time, and that has continued over the years. Now in 2020, there was the gender-based violence unit that was formed within the TTPS. And that unit investigated domestic violence, intimate partner violence. And then in 2021, our commissioner at the time recognized, and our present commissioner as well, has recognized the need for this unit. And that unit now amalgamated those two units and the sexual offenses unit in 2021 to form the Special Victims Department. That is important. It is critical. We have received numerous reports from the public, and we have victims and survivors and the public who are very happy that there is a dedicated unit to investigate these crimes.
Indeed, and I hope that the formation of these units has raised awareness within the public as well as to the crimes that are being committed against children in particular in this instance, and how vigilant the parents and guardians and everybody who is in charge of care of children needs to be.
Yes, and that is important. Safeguarding our nation's children is not one entity issue, and parents need to be very vigilant. We cannot put our heads in the sand and feel that these things are not happening. Some of these things are happening right under the nose of parents and caregivers. We need to be vigilant, and we need to call out to our family and friends who we know are pedophiles or even perpetrators. We need not to cover it up. We need to report it so that the child victim can get some sort of help and the perpetrator can be rehabilitated in some form or the other.
You know, again, it's scary. So let's start some of the cases that you came across. Is it friend, family, or otherwise?
And God, that is what is heart-wrenching. Most of the reports that reach the unit, the child victim trusts that person. So it's always someone who is in a position of trust. And that is why the Children Act came about. Because we didn't have these barrage of offenses that was created in 2015 when the Act was enacted. It created stiffer penalties for persons who are caught doing these acts. So there are persons who are in a position of trust. We have, for example, it's no longer rape or sexual intercourse with a child who is under 16 or between 14 to 16. We have penetration, and they have widened the definition of penetration so as to incorporate a lot of ill and, maltreatment that may happen to children. For example, persons, when you look at sexual penetration, it's the insertion of a bodily, or any part of a body into a child's bodily orifice. So it could be the ears. If you take your tongue and put it in the ears, you take your tongue and you put it in the genitals, all those things are considered to be penetration. Before, these things were called like indecent assault, serious indecency. And the penalty is more now. Yes? And the perpetrator is always known, well known, 99.9% of the times. The perpetrator is a family, a relative, a teacher, someone that the child would have trusted. And in most cases, because that child trusted that person, and maybe that person may inflict threats onto that child, most of the time we don't get the reports as it happened, Yeah. We get these reports sometimes months after, weeks after, 2 years after. We have adults who are now coming and report that they were sexually assaulted whilst they were children.
As you mentioned that in terms of the lag between the actual offense and the reporting, is there a statute of limitations, so to speak, in terms of when people can report these incidents?
Excellent question. There's no statutory limitation. These are indictable offenses, and with the AJIPA law, these offenses they are going before masters. Right. They are speedy. We are expecting speedier trials now with the formation of the AJIPA. Right? That came about in December of 2023, which is expected to speed up trials and get those matters off the ground in a quick way. Yeah.
If you're just joining us, you're listening to Dependency. Thank you very much. And we are having a conversation this morning with Superintendent Claire Guy-Alleyne. So we have you ever come across cases where parents or a mother decided that they're not going to believe the child and somebody else had to report it?
And that is real. That is real, because sometimes the perpetrator, sometimes it's the spouse of the mother. And we have a way in Trinidad and Tobago, and I think globally as well, we believe that children don't have a voice, and children, something that bothers me now as an adult is this thing where people tell children, or even girls must be seen and not heard. What does that mean? What does that mean to you? I wonder. Is it that, you mustn't speak up when anything happened to you? What is that? What does that really mean? What does that look like? Yes? And, we have to create spaces where children must be believed. And we operate like that within the TTPS and that Special Victims Department. Huh? I tell the officers, because a lot of people believe that children do lie.
Yes.
Right? But because of the training that we are exposed to, we start from the stance, believe your victim.
Yes.
Believe that child. If during the investigation it was established or is established that that child is not telling the truth, that child will be charged for making a false report or wasteful employment of the police. Now, with the formation of the AJIPA, and you see, lovely question, Natasha, lovely question. Because with the formation of the AJIPA now, the law creates an avenue where the child must be assessed to see whether or not that child knows the difference between truth and lie, and if that child is capable of giving evidence before the court. So that is embodied in the law now as we speak.
Now, that word AJIPA, I know a long time the old people use that for a dwelling place.
Yes, I was thinking I should say what it is.
Yes.
That is the amendment to the Indictable and Procedure Act. So that is an amendment to the Indictable Act, the procedure with law and how you treat with indictable offences.
Now, there have been reports as well that some mothers especially will set up a child to lie on, let's say, a father or stepfather. Have you ever come across cases like that?
Yes.
How do you hold it?
They would be charged. Once the child tells us, right, that a parent would have told them to say this and that and the other, we have to conduct our investigation and persons will be charged for wasteful employment of the police. Persons have been charged.
Now, we also have cases of brother molesting sister, cousin molesting cousin, these type of things. Do you is there this relates now to the sex offenders registry? Do they go into a registry?
Well, when it comes to children, the sex offenders registry really deals with adult perpetrators.
Okay.
With adult perpetrators, right? The thing about it is that we have instances where these blood relations, take place and so forth. But what we need to do is that, you see, supervision is critical. Like I tell persons, when you are looking after children, you have to be very vigilant because naturally we are sexual beings, we have to face our reality. And that is why having that age-appropriate conversation with children and sexuality is very critical. A lot of parents and adults, they are very ashamed because their parents never really had that conversation with them. They had it, or they learned it from friends, even persons at school, and they were even misled. But the reality is, I would advise parents, caregivers, persons who have responsibility for children, have that age-appropriate conversation with children. From the time a child starts to speak, walk, you have that conversation with the different body parts. What is considered as private? What persons are not supposed to touch. Have that age-appropriate conversation. Do not allow our children to grow up and have to learn it from the wrong places.
Or from their peers, which is really dangerous. But just to go back to the point that Garth raised in terms of children who abuse other children.
Yes.
That is, maybe not prevalent, but it is a concern. And how would those matters be reported? How would they come to the attention of the police
because children still, I don't know if children still play Dolly House.
You see that?
Because Dolly House was part of our growing up.
Yes.
Right? Do children still play Dolly House? And some of them would use the opportunity then to play, who's mommy and daddy, and
Yes.
And we know what mommy and
daddy is supposed to do.
Because they see mommy and daddy at some point in time frolicking.
Lord. And that is why bedrooms have doors. And when adults are doing adult people business, You have to ensure that the place is secured.
Yes.
You know, lock the doors and these kind of thing. Because you ask a question, how we get those reports. You can report it to the police, whether it's anonymous or under the law, certain categories of person are mandated to report. Caregivers, social workers, teachers, doctors, you are mandated to report. But sometimes persons may have information or have a suspicion. You can make a report, whether it's 555, 999, the Special Victims Department. The numbers are online. Make the report. Whether it's online reporting, make the report and let us investigate it. You don't have to be certain, you know. If you have a suspicion, you call, you give the information, and we would investigate the matter, right?
Yeah.
There was a question that you asked God just now. What was it? Senior moment here for me.
Yeah, me too. I know it had to do with the the plain dolly house and
Yes, you see that dolly house thing? I hope I haven't heard about it now. I haven't heard about that game now because, you know, children are more into digital games
phones,
now,
right.
which is
Correct.
even more dangerous than anything else.
we'll talk about that in a while.
Yes. But sometimes too, when we see children sexually assaulting children, in my mind, the jury is still out on that. In my mind, that child is perpetrating something that happened to him or her.
Or reenacting something that they have seen
correct.
or experienced.
Yes, I always think that. Yes?
Yeah.
So that is why we have to supervise our children intentionally to make sure that we create an environment that is really nurturing, caregiving, loving, and free from any violence whatsoever.
Yep.
Critical.
You see, the thing is, ma'am, why I ask the question about children being played, because we know in other jurisdictions, we've heard of youngsters as early as the age of 15, 16, ending up on their state's sex offenders registry. And this affects them for the rest of their natural life. You know? So, but we have not gone that route as yet.
No.
Okay.
No.
If you're just joining us, you're listening to Dependency, and we are speaking with Superintendent Claire Guy-Alleyne. And after this break, when we return, we have a special unit set up here in Trinidad and Tobago. Again, a unit such just like those set up around the world. It's called the Counter Trafficking Unit. And we had to set this unit up because, again, we have predators among us. Whether we like to hear it or not, whether you want to believe it or not, we have predators set up. And a lot of them enjoyed that time when government allowed migrants to settle here in Trinidad and Tobago. And a lot of children, you know, fell prey to these perpetrators. Like I always say to you all on Dependency, our job here is not to catch perpetrators or even go after perpetrators. Our job here on Dependency is to look after victims and survivors. The people who go after the perpetrators, ma'am and her unit, and the Counter Trafficking Unit. There are always fallouts from these incidents, just like drug use, alcohol and other drug use. So when we return, we'll delve into that. And ma'am will bring us up to speed on that work with the very important unit here in Trinidad and Tobago, the Counter Trafficking Unit of Trinidad and Tobago. You're listening to Dependency. We'll be back.
Yes, girl. Online here with this weirdo named Larry. I'm getting rid of him now. Let's take a selfie. It looking good, boy. I'm putting it online.
Hey, I thought you say you went to the beach with your parents.
Who's you?
It's me, Larry, from online.
Slavery, a terrible time in our history. the kidnapping, buying and selling of people for profit, the exploitation of another human being. It still exists today. It has a new name: human trafficking. Anyone can be a victim. There is forced labor, sexual exploitation, and domestic servitude. Human trafficking is a worldwide problem and an emerging concern for us here in Trinidad and Tobago. If you know of or suspect human trafficking activity, call the Counter Trafficking Hotline at 800-4CTU or 800-4288. Human trafficking is a crime. Identify it, report it, stop it. A message from the Counter Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National Security.
Eye on Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio, at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays at 10 a.m. and exclusively on a 95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Thank you for staying with us. This is Eye on Dependency, and we are live on I-95.5 FM. Thank you very much for joining us, and especially for those of you joining us on YouTube or Facebook, please drop a like, drop a comment, and help keep us on the air. We are in studio with Miss Claire Guy-Alleyne, who is the head of the Special Victims Unit of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and we were discussing before the break a little bit about the Sex Offenders Registry, which we are now informed is under another unit of the police service. But a very interesting fact that that she raised was that if you are on a registry in another country and you happen to get the opportunity to travel to Trinidad and Tobago, what is going to happen to that individual?
Right, our Interpol, and that is critical, that we know who is amongst us. A lot of persons may say the Sex Offenders Registry breaching people's rights and all kind of thing. But what about us, the citizen, who wants to know who are the people in our neighborhood? So once you leave your country, that country, Interpol informs our Interpol that you are coming here, the period you would be here. So you would come here and you would be monitored, because we would know exactly what flight you're coming on and exactly where you are going.
Right.
Until you leave.
Really?
Yes. So we are quite aware that you are in Trinidad.
Is it the same for us when an offender decides to leave Trinidad?
Yes, similar.
Now, how would, okay, I'm a counter attendant at Caribbean Airlines, and a sex offender comes to me with ticket, passport, everything, because would it be on the passport to say the person is a sex offender? Would it be on the ID card? How would they know?
Right. Well, in Trinidad and Tobago, when you are on the registry, if you are traveling, you must notify the authorities. So I foresee it may be a similar action in other jurisdictions as well. So countries would be alerted.
Now, I just, someone who works at the prison service, the programs, the welfare department, just called me with a very pertinent question. And I didn't think of that, and I thank Mr. Hill for raising this issue. Now, he asked the question, if there's a perpetrator or an offender is sent to prison, are there any programs in prison to rehabilitate this person, or do they just do their time and then are allowed to return to society to continue with their activity?
In all fairness to the TTPS, we are really enforcers of the law.
Correct.
The prison would have to come here and say what is in place in the prisons for these perpetrators, either when they are on remand or whether they are convicted and serving a time. The prison would have to come and see exactly what is taking place.
So it's incumbent on the prison then to set up programs for them?
To set up the programs for these perpetrators, convicts or,
But you
remandees.
remember, Garth, when we visited the prison Wandsworth in the UK, they have sections 4 different categories of
Yes.
inmates.
Yes, we
Current
were getting
sexual
that too.
offenders
Yeah.
is one category that they are, kept separate to the rest of the population in there. So.
Yeah.
But
Because
what could take place is that when the person is being convicted, whether it's a magistrate, a master, a judge, they can make certain stipulations on the conviction as well. Whether it's
Okay.
counseling with this particular department during the period,
Right.
and that could happen in the prison as well. But the prison is mandated to have the rehabilitation of its prisoners.
Yes.
but then do we have or have we had perpetrators who done time in prison?
Yes, we have persons who have been convicted of different crimes.
Was it
We also have persons who are remanded, who are also remanded.
right, and they among the same population as the you wouldn't know
Well,
that,
the prison
but
will have to say that.
yes,
I don't want to
because
answer for the prison.
because the tour we got of the prison in the UK, Wandsworth prison, they had a section separated apart from everybody else because someone going to prison for whether remand or convicted for indecent acts against women and children in for a very rough time.
Oh, yes.
Some of them end up dead.
Wow.
Because that's it's strange enough in prison there are certain standards too. And if I go to prison and say, what are you in here for? A man step on the wrong side of me and diss me and my wife and I bossy head and or beat him up and kill him. Hey, you are boss. But anytime you go to prison and sometimes they know before you reach that you assaulted a child. It's not going to be an easy stay.
Years ago,
or an easy welcome.
that used to happen. I don't know what was the reason, but we had persons who went into prison on remand for, interfering with children or even women, and they met their demise. I don't know what it has happened.
Yeah, no, because like I said, it's a crime that is frowned on even in prison.
Okay.
I could tell you that because I've been there and I know the thought process of people in prison. Once they know you come in there for indecent assault on a baby, a child, whatever, you in for a very nice welcome.
But what I've seen with matters, even when I was prosecuting in the courts, you would see where magistrates would make an order that this prisoner is not to be placed in the general population, and the prison commissioner has the responsibility to ensure so they can put stipulated guidelines with that knowledge that you are speaking about their guards.
Okay, so
to
now
safeguard persons' rights.
So now we have a new commissioner or acting commissioner in the chair. This is until Mr. Ramutai struck off strength permanently. Mr. Karaspi. Now,
Right.
how could there be a collaboration with asking or requesting of the welfare department and the prison service? Listen, you all need to set up programs, because that's a very good question. It's just like sending me to prison for a crack cocaine addiction, or as a result of. If I don't get treatment, I'm going to just put that giant to sleep, and when I return to society, I'm going to wake him up with my first smoke. It's the same thing. For some, this is an addiction.
And you're correct.
So then, is it safe to say that this should be done?
Yes, it is important that we have that conversation, whether, and I think the conversation may be happening, but I'm not certain. But we need to have that conversation loudly and let it be known publicly that we are having that conversation about how do we rehabilitate a sexual perpetrator as well as even a domestic violence perpetrator as well. How? Because we have instances of persons perpetrating over and over. Recidivism, what is that?
Because
persons are not getting the desired help that is required. So because it's something is going on in your mind. The last time we spoke about that, it caused a bacchanal. But what I'm saying, something is going on in your mind and you need some help, professional help too.
Yeah, agree.
Yes?
And the stigma associated with that offense as well would maybe prevent people from accessing the help that they need. Because,
exactly.
And we have made numerous attempts to find an offender who's willing to speak about his or her crime if it's a sexual offense, and those offenders are generally unwilling
to come forward
and talk about what they did and why they did it, because of that stigma.
But we stumbled upon a group, and I ran this by a senator, and she gave me her thoughts on it. But there are actually pedophiles who think they are different from other pedophiles.
Categories of pedophiles.
Yes, because they belong to a group called virtuous pedophiles.
Who don't offend.
And they don't offend. They just admire children. They have sexual attraction to them, but they don't cross the line. We have those out there, right? Now, coming back to our, I don't know what the senator thinks, that maybe we should have program, and Mr. Hill is right. We should have program because an addiction is a hell of a thing. And the person will just do their time and return to society and continue doing what they love doing to children. So now we have the Counter Trafficking Unit of Trinidad and Tobago.
Oh, yes.
And what prompted the need for that collaboration with this unit? Now we have a new director in Mr. Alan Miguel and a new deputy director, Dane Marie Marshall.
Yes.
How did that connection come about?
Pleasant good morning to them and congratulations to them again.
Yes.
That collaboration came about because, for example, we have migrant children. When you look at the Children Act of Trinidad and Tobago, it doesn't protect children only of our domestic situation, Trinidad and Tobago only. It protects all children who are in Trinidad and Tobago. So it does not discriminate on whether you're a migrant child or not. Yes? So it protects all children. Now, the collaboration between Counter Trafficking Unit and the Special Victims Department is very, very critical because sometimes a report comes to us that may appear like a child is sexually penetrated or sexually assaulted. When we start to interview that child, who is a migrant child, we may pick up that there are trafficking signals. This child was actually trafficked.
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah.
So what we do is that we immediately make contact with the Counter Trafficking Unit, with these special trained officers, and the director and the deputy director. They get involved immediately. Yes? And we hand over that child seamlessly to the Counter Trafficking Unit. Even when it comes to addressing issues of human trafficking, children, migrant children being, trafficked, we have had several stakeholder meetings with the Counter Trafficking Unit, the Children Authority. Several meetings are being held so that we can respond to these matters in a multidisciplinary approach, also in the best interests of the survivors and the victims.
If you're just joining us, you're listening to Dependency, and we in studio with us, Superintendent Claire Guy-Alleyne, and you all know her role in Trinidad and Tobago. Ma'am, as mothers, apart from you all being in law enforcement, you all are mothers as well.
Yes.
Dane Marie Marshall was a police officer. She's now deputy director of the CTU. You being a mother yourself. And when you come across these cases, how do you already try to stay focused and not try to strangle somebody? When you look
you see, working in those areas, it's not for the faint-hearted. And to me, working in those kind of areas, it's actually a calling. And it is critical whenever persons are being placed in these particular areas that you do robust and strong background checks on individuals, because you must be able to control some of your biases and your feelings. You must be able to, and that is why training is critical. You have to understand what you are getting into, and you have to be very professional. Very, very professional.
And also take care of your own, yourself, in the sense of when you come across these very traumatic stories from victims and survivors that you decompress in a sense and access whatever help. So tell us about what is your unit, the officers in your unit. Do they have access to counseling and support?
Very, very critical. See, self-care?
Yes.
Self-care is important. And within our unit, we have access to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. The TTPS has a social social welfare unit with trained psychologists to offer that psychosocial support to our officers. We also have the IOM, International Organization for Migrants.
Yes.
They also offer us, at the end of the year for the past 3 years, they have been giving us that group psychology sessions with the Special Victims Department. I also mandate the inspectors who are in charge of the different divisions of the Special Victims Department, the sub-units, because there are 10 policing divisions and we are represented in each. And there's an inspector who is in charge of that. Now, I have mandated them as well, notwithstanding all of that, every 3 months, they must have some sort of debriefing session. So we have the group, we have the units doing their debriefing, and then we have the individuals who can reach out to the TTPS social work units.
Absolutely.
So self-care is critical.
Yes, that is important, of course, because the kind of stories that you guys hear on a daily basis can be very re-traumatizing for you, not just for the victim. So yes, I'm glad that.
And we have had officers who could not function in those kind of situations.
Yeah.
I remember speaking to a senior officer one time. He said, Ms. Guy-Alleyne, I don't know how you just do that, you know. You understand? Because to listen to those stories over and over and knowing that you are a parent, you understand? They sometimes say a police officer is a step above, or even a lot is expected from a police officer. We are supposed to be different. But the reality is we are human beings. And that is why training is critical. Training on how to deal with your biases, training on how to, and we have to be honest. We have to be honest to ourselves. If we cannot function in these areas, be honest and said, sir, ma'am, I cannot function here. Because you will not be of benefit to the clients.
So I guess the unit works both ways. If somebody calls the Counter Trafficking Unit to report, an issue, then the Counter Trafficking Unit will get your unit involved.
Correct.
And once your unit comes across a case, then you will get the Counter Trafficking Unit
Correct.
involved.
Great collaboration.
So it goes back and forth.
Back and forth, hand in hand.
Now,
seamless.
Right. So let's deal with the migrant population. How many cases have you all come across with people and migrant children?
I don't have the figures, the exact figures, but we do come across migrant children who have been sexually assaulted. We do.
By our locals or by their family members?
Both, by locals here as well as their family members as well.
Are you kidding?
I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
Because it's very hard to wrap your mind around, because I mean this is a vulnerable population to begin with, and if these children are put in a more vulnerable position, i.e. they are not in school, they probably don't speak the language, they are exposed to adults, or they may be forced to work. If they are a child, they may be in situations that may be physically dangerous for them, or dangerous in other ways, meaning that they are among adults who have no regard for the fact that they're children and they need to be treated differently.
And that is so true. And that is why programs like yours is critical, so that the public, be it migrant or even our domestic public, would have the information and know that here's what, if something is happening to you here in Trinidad and Tobago, you are also covered under the law. So report it. And we have a lot of agencies that act on behalf of these migrants, a lot, because a lot of the reports that come to us, sometimes it doesn't come from the migrant themselves. It always comes through a third party.
A concerned citizen.
Because the migrants are sometimes afraid to report.
But this was I was just about to ask, some, especially those who are here illegally.
Yes.
And they're not registered.
Yes.
And these are the more vulnerable groups.
Yes.
Groups, because the perpetrators know that.
Well, it is important, because once the report reaches to us, Your welfare is taken into being, but we must contact the immigration, and that is what you must understand. We are duty bound to contact the immigration. We must contact the particular embassy of the country that you are from that is operating in Trinidad and Tobago, but your welfare would be dealt with.
Ma'am, this is very tricky because, I'm just sitting here thinking how advantageous or disadvantageous, I should say, the position of a person who will prefer to stay being abused rather than report because they still wouldn't trust the system. How do you get them to trust?
Trust the system. Trust the system. One out of two things. Don't come here illegally, right? But if you're here illegally and you are a victim of crime, make the report and let us take the steps that are necessary at the time. Because if you don't, you could end up dead. That is the worst case scenario. If you don't report it, the abuse, sexual assault is going to continue and you may end up dead. But make the report and see what the authorities can do for you in your best interest at the time. Don't let the crime perpetuate and continue.
Now, before somebody sent in another question that I think is very pertinent because this is someone who deals with challenged children.
Oh, yes.
Now, I know it might be painful for you to say. Have you ever had to arrest colleagues?
Yes, we have arrested several colleagues. We have several police officers who are before the court for sexually assaulting children. Some of them their own children. Yeah, we have. It's not a nice thing to do, and I would not glorify that. But we do not discriminate on perpetrators or victims. Whoever come and make the report, we would investigate, and whoever is the perpetrator. For example, if it's a police officer the allegation is made against, we will conduct the investigation, obtain all the evidence, and we prepare a file, and we engage the director of public prosecutions. And the director will tell us whether to pursue or not.
No, I shouldn't have to ask this because I know, especially with the deputy director, but with regard to migrant children, they as well would have encountered their colleagues too involved with migrant children, abusing them as well.
Right, yes, and they have charged police officers as well. Counter Trafficking Unit?
Yes.
Yes, they have charged police officers.
Wow.
Yeah, we are the only institution I see where we conduct investigation and arrest and charge our own. Yeah.
No, and I have to commend you all on that, we have to, Trinidad and Tobago must notice that, that there are a lot of officers. As a matter of fact, somebody was telling us that a part of the prison is nicknamed St. James Barracks.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because of the amount of police officers that are there. That's testament to the fact that you are not playing.
No. Report is made, investigation is conducted. Whoever is the perpetrator, you'll be taken before the courts. Doesn't matter.
This is a life-changing thing. Do officers really understand? I'm sure they do, but they're thinking that they're not going to get caught.
Yeah, I feel that is part of it, that they already know that they're in a position of authority over, citizens, and they kind of extend it.
And those victims and survivors may be fearful. Because we have come across persons who say that, I'm afraid to go, and some persons may call me and they would say, I know a friend who is being sexually assaulted or even assaulted physically, but the perpetrator is a police officer, a prison officer, and they're afraid to go and make the report. I will take the report, and we will send our team out to meet that person wherever, because they may not want to come to the station. Yes. We have had victims who are at the station making the report, and if they see a door open, they feel is the perpetrator coming through that door, because a police officer there would have told the perpetrator that they are at the station making the report. It's a really scary and sad situation, But at the end of the day, I want to let the public understand it doesn't matter who is the perpetrator. Make your report. It would be investigated. Perpetrators ought to be held accountable, notwithstanding who it is. Yeah?
Now, the Counter Trafficking Unit, they, people, I don't think people understand how important the unit is. There are those who do, but they have to keep plugging away all the time and nipping away at the public to let them know that this unit is very necessary and needed in Trinidad and Tobago. The collaboration with both units, how often that you all have to collaborate?
Very often we collaborate. Very often we have conversation because we actually have sworn police officers who are assigned to the Counter Trafficking Unit. Mm-hmm. So we collaborate a lot. We even, besides enforcing the law, conducting investigations, charging persons who we have enough evidence to charge, we also partnership in keeping like outreach programs in different areas. We even merge with the Children Authority of Trinidad and Tobago because the both agencies, Counter Trafficking and the Special Victims, once we are dealing with children, we must involve the Children Authority.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a collaborative effort that is needed when it comes to safeguarding children, whether it's migrants or local or domestic. Yeah? I'm seeing the shock on your face.
Yeah, it's more. Still, I. There are a number of men, a number of us, men and women, who we grew up knowing that there are certain lines that you cannot cross.
Yeah.
All right, regardless of what, whether it's your niece, your nephew, whoever, we grew up knowing that. So it never happened. Never touched my sister, never cousin, nobody. But then there are the men who do. What's the difference? How is it, as Mr. Hill suggested, should we really set up programs to deal with these men and women we have out here?
It's really sad, but what I'm saying, there are things that we could do. Once we know it is happening, do not turn the other cheek.
Turn a blind eye.
Yes, if you know it's happening, deal with it immediately. Because evil continues when good men sit around and do nothing. It may be a family member, it may be a friend, it may be someone in authority. But do we want this act to continue? Let us deal with it head on.
I feel too that that's part of the reason for the act being perpetrated is that the culture itself can be permissive in certain ways. We have certain ways about talking about young women especially who rather than see the adult man in the situation as being a predator, you rather to say that the young girl is being fast or growing up too fast.
Yes.
Right? They don't distinguish between a child and an adult.
Correct.
And what responsibilities each has in that circumstance. So that kind of permission that we give to exonerate the adult, the man usually in this case, makes it easy for men to perpetrate this against girls.
Correct. And that is why we need, as a society, from all spheres of life, we need to change the narrative.
Absolutely.
Call it out when we see it.
Absolutely.
And you are so correct, Natasha, because up to this week, I was speaking to a civilian, and they were saying, we had a report, and they were telling me that they were hearing in the neighborhood persons saying that this child look for that, and this child push herself up on the man.
Yes.
Even if a child does that, that is an adult person. You have a responsibility.
Correct.
You have a responsibility.
Yes.
You, a child, cannot give consent. A child is someone who is under the age of 18 in the laws of Trinidad and Tobago. That child cannot give consent to sexual assault or sexual activity at all. And we need to change the narrative and stop victim blaming, more so our children. Because when we continue to do that, we create a ground where the perpetrator feels that he wins and he moves on to the next vulnerable person, So we need to call it out in society. We have men maybe standing on the streets of Trinidad and Tobago, and females are passing, and you hear him pss, pss, catcalling. We need other men who are in that group to say, here's what, have some respect for that woman. Stop that. We need men who could stand up. We need to change the narrative and stop having a breeding ground where these things can continue and multiply.
So what about, and before we go to the question with the challenge, what about that? There are guys out there, ma'am, as far as we heard, who there's a network, and when there's a child available, they would message each other and charge a fee because they have some children or they have a mother, and because of the mother's situation in Trinidad and Tobago, they take advantage of that, and the mother allow for men to come and have their way with children.
We have that going on. Well, we need to get a report. We need those reports. We need those reports.
But what about the men who actually access these, this
We need those reports. I mean, one or two of those reports come to us.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that it's in a big scale. We have one or two of those reports, and let me tell you something. A lot of times when those reports come to us, when it may be a citizen who suspects something is happening at a particular home, and they report it to us. And I could remember 2 cases just off my head where we would have interviewed the children and they denied it. They denied it. I want to tell children who are listening on today, family members who are aware that children are being used in this kind of way, to report it to us, give us statements, and let us conduct the investigation. Do not be deterred, because a lot of times these children are so confused. They are so confused. They do not understand what is happening, and sometimes because it's a parent who may be doing this, they may not want it to be reported because they know that their parents would be arrested and charged. But children, this is unacceptable, and this ought not to be happening to you. Because we have children maybe listening to the program.
Absolutely. And based on this comment that was made, Pearl said, Oprah Winfrey herself said, because she was developed for her age, quote unquote, many persons believe that she was abused because she was, quote unquote, hot. And we need to, as you said, ma'am, that we need to get out of this mindset that it is the child's fault for being developed for her age. Who is looking on and assessing that she is developed for her age and therefore ready to have sex? Who is making that determination? The society, the culture, the men in her life who turn around and abuse her. We need to let children be children, regardless of what their stage or level of development is like, and to go to the point about disabled children who are even more vulnerable, of course, because and because of the prevailing attitudes that we have about persons with disabilities and their sexual lives, because we feel like because you're disabled you have no sexual life. If you are a child and you are exposed to those attitudes and norms, and we have people who in the society who are likely to prey on the vulnerable, i.e. a child, then they are less likely to speak up when something like that happens to them, because they feel like, maybe I deserve it.
And that is why changing the narrative is critical.
Yes.
Because in that situation that you explain, it comes like a woman walking down the streets in a particular outfit and God forbid she's raped. You would say she was raped because of what she was wearing.
Honestly.
Why don't you say she was raped because that perpetrator is a wicked, evil person?
Correct.
Change the narrative. Let us start to call out perpetrators for who they are.
Yes.
And shame them.
Yes.
Shame them, because we need to start to change the narrative on the way we look at the victim.
Yes.
And let the persons understand that the victims and survivors ought to be living in an environment that is free from any violence of any type.
If you're joining us, you're listening to Dependency, and we are speaking with Superintendent Claire Guy-Alleyne, and you understand the conversation. Now, to go to the question, how do you deal with children who are mentally challenged and abuse other children? Many times parents defend those challenged kids, children, or parents want to beat the devil out of them. That was the question from someone who actually works with
children.
Yes. But so how you deal with that who are mentally challenged and abuse other children?
And that is difficult because when we look at persons who are mentally challenged, I think we need to do some more. We need to do more. When I say that, for example, parents who have children who are mentally challenged, you have to supervise even more than the way you would supervise a child who, is not mentally challenged. It is critical that supervision takes place. And you have to show all these children love. Because if you beat that child, because something happened and you beat that child, you now will be held accountable. You can be arrested and charged. But we need parents, when you have children who have mental issues, seek help. See how you could attend different groups and, seek professional help on how you shall nurture and parent this child.
Yes. And discuss issues to do with sex and their bodies.
Correct.
Because I feel like the conversation would be different for a child with a mental disorder or
but how do you have that conversation with a child with a
course,
mental disorder?
The same way you would teach them, the same way they'll be taught in school and interact with of course the kind of parenting would be different.
It would be.
Yeah, because you remember we have Lady Hochai home, we have Princess Elizabeth home.
Yes.
How you have that conversation?
Another thing, and that is why I spoke about the training.
Yeah.
You see, that training is critical. You cannot just take anybody there.
Not continue. Remember, there was a report some years ago of a client of one of the homes who was taken advantage of by a female teacher.
Yes.
Right.
By a female teacher
was that
because...
teacher trained? Did we find out if that teacher was trained?
Or is it the teacher was just a perpetrator?
Could be as well too, yes.
Yeah.
Could be.
A sick person and decide that this young man here, we on a mic here, and I
in
see
a
that
position of authority and
yes,
she took advantage.
We
I don't know
know
whatever became of her if she was arrested and charged for that offense.
Yeah.
But it was released to the public that she was having sexual intercourse with a mentally challenged.
Give me the information, I'll double check and see.
I don't know if the person who listening this morning could, bring me up to speed on what happened to her. But I remember there was a report that came out that there was this young man at the home and he was assaulted by this female teacher a few times.
Right.
But again, I think Mom is correct in terms of the additional supervision that is needed for people like this. Because I saw a story just today on Facebook about relating to animals. A mentally challenged young person, he took 2 kittens and put them in a container and closed the container.
Oh.
And I mean, you can't really blame him for doing that, but clearly nobody explained to him that, these are animals, they need to be able to breathe and da-da-da-da-da. So I think the same is true for sexual offenses. You can't, there are ways, I'm sure, that you can explain to these children about their own bodies and how to protect themselves and how they need to engage with other people.
Yeah.
Or ma'am, the mindset would be, look, no, this is like hunting in the zoo, because remember, they're under our care. Remember, they cannot articulate for themselves properly. So they can easily be taken advantage of, thinking that they would tell no one.
Yes.
And they wouldn't understand what's happening to them.
Yes.
So, like as you said, education is the key.
Absolutely.
Critical. Because we need to supervise these children a little bit more. We need caregivers, parents, people who have responsibility for children, and these children are mentally ill. We need to do 100% more than what we do for normal children.
Good morning to those of you on Facebook and YouTube. Remember, those of you on our YouTube channel, YouTube family, we thank you very much for continuing to support us. And remember, please remember to like and subscribe to the channel while you're there.
Yes.
We want you to catch up with our Facebook 8,000 followers. So we want you to catch up, right? So let's try and do that.
Yes.
When we go to a break,
Yep.
let's go to a break. And when we return, remember, we still have Alan Balfour coming here from the Trinity Dance Theatre. They have a show started last evening at Queen's Hall, and it's the final leg is this evening, and they're going to tell you about the work that why they decided to do this to support the Counter Trafficking Unit, because Terry, forget Terry's surname, but Terry's also a dancer. Terry works, he's one of the interpreters with the Counter Trafficking Unit as well. Okay. You all would have seen him and the deputy director in an interview on television at another television station recently, speaking about it. So stay with us for that. Alan also had a loss that he experienced of a close friend who was trafficked. So he, they're really well placed in doing this for you all, for those of you who will be interested. So stay right there. We'll be right back.
And when we come back, we will talk more about the devices now. How do we protect our children? How do parents and guardians ensure that their children are not being exploited online?
Yes, important.
And how to use that Counter Trafficking Unit's hotline to your advantage, and of course, the Special Victims Department. So stay right there, we'll be back.
Give me my phone.
What you doing taking them kind of pictures? I'll tell mommy.
And I'll tell her you invaded my privacy.
Privacy? When you send those pics, you lose all privacy. It's like setting up a billboard with your naked pics for the world to see.
Those pictures are for my boyfriend's eyes only, and he'll never do that to me.
Yes, he can, or one of his friends or family. Or someone can steal his phone. Sending naked pics can open you up to embarrassment for you, your family, and friends. You can be harassed by bullies. Your pics can be uploaded to websites and seen by everybody, even the wrong people, sex offenders. It can also affect you getting a good job in the future. Once those pictures go out, you can never get them back.
Okay, I'll tell my boyfriend delete them, and I'll delete these. I'm glad I have a smart little sister.
I'm still telling mommy.
Slavery, a terrible time in our history. The kidnapping, buying and selling of people for profit, the exploitation of another human being. It still exists today. It has a new name: human trafficking. Anyone can be a victim. There is forced labor, sexual exploitation, and domestic servitude. Human trafficking is a worldwide problem and an emerging concern for us here in Trinidad and Tobago. If you know of or suspect human trafficking activity, call the Counter Trafficking Hotline at 800-4CTU or 800-4288. Human trafficking is a crime. Identify it, report it, stop it. A message from the Counter Trafficking Unit of the Ministry of National Security.
Eye on Dependency with Garth and Natasha.
Reality radio, at its best, where every life is a biography.
Sundays at 10 a.m. and exclusively on a 95.5 FM.
And streamed live on the Eye on Dependency Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Thank you very much for staying with us. This is Eye on Dependency. Thank you for joining us on I-95.5 FM. And to those of you tuned in to our live stream on YouTube and Facebook, thank you again. And don't forget, please get those likes up. Click that like button, make a comment. That really helps us to keep us on the air.
Yes, so, ma'am, again, that the more you speak, the more we really understand and appreciate how important the Counter Trafficking Unit, your unit, Children Authority is. But on the other hand, it's really sad to know that we have adults and children who abuse little children. It's painful to even think about. Mm-hmm. That, again, we always want to find out why. That's why that's the reason our dependency started, to find out why. and I continue to ask this question. Have you all ever tried to find out what would make a man or woman look at a 10-year-old and 9-year-old and find them attractive and go the distance? After that, you could let us know what to look out for. With our population, the migrant population. But let's start with that. Have you all ever tried to get inside of a man's head when you all have him in the interrogation room or whatever, and say, tell us from your heart, as man to man, woman to woman, man to man?
In most instances in an investigation, they deny it. The child is a liar.
Okay.
Because children are not supposed to be believed. So a lot of time in the investigation, when we interview the suspects, most of the times they would say that. We would hardly, sometimes you may have persons admitting, and they didn't know that was a child. And let me tell you something, if you see the victim looking like a baby, but you didn't know that was a child. Yeah? And let us go one time onto the online.
Yes.
I am asking parents, because listen to me, they don't play dolly house and thing anymore, because they have devices. Parents, caregivers, persons with responsibility for children, be in control. Have your devices and have parental restrictions on them. Because sometimes your child may be on, let's say, whether it's YouTube or whatever, and things pop up on the screen.
Yep.
Adults, we do it, we click. So what we expect a child to do?
Correct.
Be in control of the devices that your children have. Limit the access. At a particular, have on time and off time screen. Control those devices. There are people in the dark web just sitting and waiting to ploy on your child. So you have to be careful. That is the reality. Your child may think there's some new games that I'm hearing persons talking about, and children are actually communicating with the other parties. Who are you to say that is a child you are communicating with?
Correct. Or
People
you mean the online
pretend.
games where people
Yes,
play the games
and they speak
chat.
in.
Yes, yes.
You may think you are speaking to some of your peers when you may be speaking to a pedophile or even an adult male or female.
Yes.
We have to be careful. Be in control of your children's devices. That is important.
Mom, do you think there's an age? Because I think there's a movement in the UK that is trying to restrict access for children under a certain age to have a smartphone. I think the age is 14. I think at the age 14 they could get a smartphone.
I don't know how realistic that is now, because we are in 2024.
Yes.
Where the digital age is so in our face. So we just have to prepare our children from a very tender age. I saw a 3-year-old recently maneuver a device. I was shocked.
Yeah, they're not easy.
They know how to go on YouTube. They know how to search for this, search for that. I said, oh my God, suppose that child put in the wrong word and search the wrong thing. That is why parents need to be in control of the devices. Have your child lock on it. Yes, and be aware of what they are doing on those devices.
Because, as you said, sometimes I will go on the computer, do some research, and start with one subject, and then several windows open up.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then
Rabbit
you
hole.
could stay, you're just wanting to spend 10 minutes looking for something, and you could spend up to 10 hours.
That's right.
If you want, because it's just one click leads you to another click to another
Yes.
click, and you could keep on clicking.
Whole day.
And even on these social media platforms, I mean, you could go on Facebook and be scrolling for hours. On Instagram, scrolling for hours. TikTok.
Yeah, TikTok.
And
Snapchat.
It is so much information for us as adults to try and process. Can you imagine what is going through a child's mind when he or she is
And let me tell you something,
scrolling?
as we on the online thing now, there are people sending WhatsApp links on telling you that you want this and you want that. You properly well know you didn't go there and shop,
Yes.
but you're clicking on it. From the time you click on that, the person on the other end now has control of your device.
Your phone.
So what they do, they send someone on your contact list. Hi, Can I get $100,000? I'll give it back to you next week. Now I think I talking to God who honest and me and God good. It's not God I'm speaking to. They may give you an account number and then you deposit into that. You have lost your money.
Well, I brought up this with Natasha just 2 days ago. Someone was giving an advice, because AI now can afford someone to call you and sound just like your husband or daughter or somebody.
Yes.
Now, the person says that all parents out there, and I talked to Natasha one time, let's get a code word, because it can happen. And don't wait till it happens, then to try to do something, because once the person calls you and say, Mommy, you know your daughter's supposed to be in school.
Exactly.
But I'm in the mall and somebody just snatched my wallet and I was going and pay what you sent me to pay and could you transfer the money for me, please? Or, somebody calling me that they advise that parents and children and families come up with a code.
With their own code.
Yes.
Yeah, whether it's a family group chat or some kind of thing.
Right.
Because let me tell you something. I mean, I'm real good looking and I'm a topper. But the other day on Facebook, I saw an app. And I clicked the app, and if you see me, spotless, watch me, I'm more beautiful than anything else. I said, but what is this?
You could manipulate.
So AI, with the technology, it comes with a lot of advantages and disadvantages.
Right.
So we have to be very careful, and we really have to parent intentionally. I can't stop saying that. We have a lot of things fighting against us. So we have to have that conversation and be available for our children and speak to them.
Ma'am, have you heard about, there was a report in the Express last year about certain apps being used, like WhatsApp, like Telegram, being used to share images of children in various states of undress. Have you gotten any reports about that? And what can you say about the use of these apps?
I remember, was it last year or year before? These days are going so fast. There was a weekend we were, that came up, and we were expecting that persons would come and report it. Because we have to be careful. Some persons may look like children, but they are not children. And the rumor that was spreading that weekend was that this particular site had children on it. Right? We put out press releases. We ask the public to come forward to us with the information. Come and identify who you know. And we are still waiting. We are still waiting.
Because it seems as if there are certain groups being set up and children are being influenced, coerced, or whatever it is to send pictures of themselves to these groups. Where there are adults who are enjoying the material. So what does the law say about the sharing of intimate photos of minors?
Correct. We have Section 40 of the Children Act that speaks about child pornography. I really wish that we could amend the laws and change that word from child pornography.
Yes.
Internationally, they're calling it child sexual abuse material. Because when you say child pornography, you make it sound like it's something good. Adult pornography, child pornography.
Yes, like there's consent.
Come on. Child sexual abuse material.
Yeah.
That sounds better, right?
Yep.
And we have Section 40 of our Act that creates an offense. If you have in your possession, you distribute, display, it's an offense. Even with the app that made me look more beautiful than I am, if you take a child's photo and you place it on a nude adult body, that's an offense in Trinidad and Tobago. Yes? So you just want persons to come and make the report. But a lot of times I suspect that the victims and survivors are so ashamed. They do not want to come, make the report, and let us investigate it because they don't know what will be unearthed.
Correct.
But I'm saying if you're a victim of these kind of offenses, come forward and make the report. If you have information of children, child pornography or child sexual assault material, bring it forward and let us investigate.
Because, ma'am, we would see these sometimes videos and images would pop up in some group you're in on WhatsApp or pop up on social media, and you would share it with somebody saying, look at this.
Don't share it.
But
law enforcement, head to the nearest police station. Let us get your device to see where's the origin of it. Because when you keep sharing, you make it more difficult for law enforcement.
Thank you.
So you
Thank
have
you
it,
very much, ma'am.
Head to the police station. Let us get our
Immediately.
cyber involved and let the investigation commence.
You know, I'm smiling because the other day somebody sent me a video with little girls, I think they were smoking or cursing, and I forwarded it to you. And I said, after I forwarded it, I said, Lord, I hope Mommy arrest me for this here, because I know you talk about this, but I sent it for you because...
Yes, and we will commence the investigation.
You know, it really...
It came to your phone. It came to your phone, yeah.
So, and these are shared in... Now, I annoyingly have to deal with 4 or 5 WhatsApp groups that I have on my phone. And all kind of stuff comes in. And sometimes I would just delete them. I'm whole day I spend clearing
your phone.
Because, but then there would be instances where people would send children being abused or children. And what I sent for you is quite clear it was an adult.
Yes.
Because of the height of the camera, looking down on the children, following them. And have them cursing out each other.
Yeah, that is so sad.
Trinidad and Tobago talking about toddlers. You know?
That is so sad. And the adults are actually taping those kind of things. Come on.
Yes.
And at no stage you tell the children, hey, conduct yourself properly. You understand? Come on.
Sickening. It's sickening. And like if these mothers, some of them are so proud to hear their daughters curse and curse out each other. And I'm saying, but how a mother could even... No, it speaks to when they start going to school, the behavior.
Well, children mirror what they see, you know.
Absolutely.
And that is why as parents, we need to mirror the behavior that we want our children to depict.
Yeah.
We have to also model the way in which we conduct ourselves so that our children would also follow us. Children are sponge.
Try telling that
to
to
go
some...
back to that, the issue of sharing the content, I want to reinforce that, because if it comes to your phone, you may not want to implicate the person who sent it to you. But remember that once it reaches on your phone,
possession. So you and all could be charged.
Exactly. So it is incumbent on you as a responsible adult or child to report it.
No, only man, I ain't taking charge.
Because if the police conduct an investigation and we could track that Natasha sent it to God sent it to Claire, all 3 of us accountable, you know.
Correct.
Yeah,
right? But under the act, it also it gives law enforcement that wiggle room where we could conduct the investigation. We could have it for that purpose.
Right.
So that is why if it comes to your phone, come to the police station. We're gonna get you to cyber and we're gonna extract it.
Right.
Because you don't know how it came to your phone. And remember, you have no control with what comes to your phone.
But this is what I'm saying.
But when you have it and you're sharing you become part of the whole process there now.
Understood.
So in order for that chain to break, the cycle to break, somebody has to do it.
Because I noticed WhatsApp now, normally you could have shared something 5 times. Now WhatsApp drop it down to once. It has become so prevalent that WhatsApp now even going a step further.
To protect
that
people,
because like if I'm sharing information on dependency, and I want people to alert people, and I send it via WhatsApp, I was only allowed 5 people at a time.
Right.
So you send it to 5, it will cut you off. You start over, you send it to another 5.
Yeah.
Now it's only one time. Out of one person now you can share.
Okay.
Yeah, they've
but
gone a step
you
further.
still get messages saying
forwarded many times.
Many times, yes.
So it's like one person to one person to one person.
Oh, okay, single.
Yeah. So now, because they're trying to make it more tedious for you.
Yeah.
To share these things.
But then again, if you're in a group, you send it to the group. Then you have a wider. That's an easy way to
but let us stop sharing that child sexual assault material.
Yes,
they
please.
need to stop it. It's a criminal offense in Trinidad and Tobago.
Please.
Yes.
So let's talk about this, ma'am. So now we have had a thing in the past that even sitting on Santa Claus' lap was a thing. But you go home by uncle, you go home by auntie, and come by your uncle and sit down on his lap and talk to parents about doing this now.
Yeah,
please.
be careful with that. And anytime you see your child says, Mommy, I don't like to be around uncle or a male cousin or anybody at all. It might be a female too. Let us not put our heads in the sand. We have female perpetrators too.
Yes.
Right? Anytime you hear children saying that, hey, listen to that child. Do not have that child around that person. As a matter of fact, try to have a very close conversation now to find out why. Don't be too busy. You know, we live in a busy society now where it wouldn't even make time to ask that child. So why you don't want to be around Uncle so-and-so?
Did something happen?
Don't even ask if did something happen, just because you don't want to lead the child.
Right.
Right? Just say, what is the reason? You told me recently you don't like being around uncle. Why? You know? And you listen to that child. Once we create that safe space where children can speak to you, we have parents sometimes, hey, you just talk too much. Hush him out. Get away from that. Leave that wiggle room. You might be tired. You might be sleepy. Your children want to talk. Listen.
Yep. And just as adults, sometimes we would say, you know, your blood intake somebody.
Yes.
Children have this instinct too, you know. They know the kind of people that they feel safe around. So as
even the hugging of children and
yes.
saying, don't have your children hugging people.
Just so. And people hugging up your child and kissing up your child.
Kissing up your child. All on the lips and all kind of thing. Come on.
So the days, so we've reached a real bad state now in this world. To
Because you
reach
don't know
that
person's
stage.
intentions.
Correct.
Yeah, as I say, it could be that person could be hidden in plain sight. That person could be sitting next to you. Because what does a sexual perpetrator look like? A predator look like?
Thank you.
There's
no look. There's no look.
And this is what makes your job, the job of the Counter Trafficking Unit and all of these things harder. That
what does a trafficker look like?
Yeah.
Correct.
You understand?
Yeah.
There's no look. So we all have to be vigilant. And if we could avoid a situation, let us avoid it.
If you're just joining us, thank you very much. We've had a very interesting conversation with Superintendent Claire Guy-Alleyne. And those of you, good morning to those of you on YouTube, Patricia, Taylor, Cheryl, and all the rest. Thank you for faithfully joining us here every Sunday to learn something. And be daycare centers, ma'am, and the like. Again, speak to Trinidad and Tobago about choosing a daycare center, what to look out for in your child. Imagine you have to do an examination of your child every time you leave them somewhere, and talk to Trinidad and Tobago about that, please.
And let me tell you something. Anybody who is taking care of your children, besides yourself, you must conduct due diligence. Do inquiries, check and find out if that place is a reputable place. We have situations where persons have anybody, they go on Facebook, Instagram, and they just see people advertising. And they call them, listen, I want you to come and look after my child Saturday. Don't do that. You don't know if that person is a genuine person or if they're a responsible person. You are exposing your children to danger. And under Section 4 of the Cruelty Act of the Children Act, there's an offense called cruelty. Exposing your child to danger is one of the offenses under that section. When you do these things, you're actually exposing your child to danger, and you may have a question to answer if something happens to those children. So conduct due diligence, ensure that these places are reputable, the persons that you want to take care of your children, that they are also of good repute, that they are good.
Yes.
Be careful. We owe our children to create safe spaces.
Would you recommend a setting up of a register for babysitters and who have gone through certain scrutiny, so that if somebody wants a babysitter immediately, there's a database that they can, or a website they can go to in Trinidad and Tobago?
I agree with that. I agree with that. But I think when it comes to daycare centers, you must be registered. But according to you, we should have an area or a site where we can go and see all registered daycare centers that are reputable. That's an excellent idea.
Yeah, and you know, rate them according to what the experience, and so you will know, look, this person.
Correct.
You know, I think that is something that should be done.
Correct, and that's why I keep saying, when it comes to safeguarding our children, it's not no one person. You hear what God bring up there now? That registry?
Yeah.
That is important.
Yep.
And I think it's time that we have that. A
Agreed.
registry showing all reputable daycare centers. You
Mhm.
see reviews and all
That's
of that.
right.
That's critical.
Yeah.
Because we hear some horror stories in some daycare centers. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Of course,
Horror
absolutely.
stories.
And I
yeah.
just wanted to share this comment that from Facebook, just to go back to the issue with children with disabilities. Lisa says parents with mental disabilities, with children with mental disabilities, should carry them out and socialize them and let people know about them. Don't hide.
Correct.
Don't hide them, so it may not be so bad when they do eventually go out and interact with other children, so they develop those social skills. I think this is such an important
She's correct.
comment.
I feel she's a social worker. She's indeed correct. Because sometimes we keep these children locked away. So they
Yes.
feel as though they're in a caged behavior. But you need to carry them out in public and let them socialize with other children. When you see them doing something, because let me tell you, we humans have an instinct just like animals. So if you take that child out and that child is doing something wrong and you let that child know, the child will know that here's what, that behavior is unacceptable. So that is why it's critical that parents who have children of this kind of nature, you seek that professional help on how to move forward.
Absolutely.
Important.
Yep.
Now, before we go to sorry.
No, another comment, just quickly.
Sure.
Samantha says, she says, do not have your child calling those who are not auntie and uncle to those persons who are not blood related to the child.
Thank you.
I mean,
Amen.
I know for certain people that is a term of respect, right?
It's a term of respect.
For your elders.
it's a term
they
of
may not be
respect.
related to you, but I will call my mother's friends auntie. Auntie Asha, Auntie Zakia, etc. But I don't know if the times have changed.
You know why she's saying that? Because sometimes when you tell persons, like for example, if I bring my 5-year-old daughter here, I would say, call God uncle. First time she's meeting God, and I'm telling her, call God uncle.
Right.
Now,
That's making the
she
child
will
let their
think
guard
that
down.
she can trust God.
There you go.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
So we need to be careful. Miss and sir, we need to move away from that auntie and uncle business.
Yes.
The children know who is auntie, they know who is uncle.
Right.
Miss and sir, or ma'am and sir. Let us do that because children are children and they are very vulnerable.
Yes.
So we don't want someday the child may see this person who you said to call uncle, and uncle is a perpetrator or a pedophile, and we are not around to protect our child.
Because uncle could see you in the road.
Correct.
And decide, hey, there's my opportunity here, and stop and say, hey uncle, okay, you're going home? Come now. And they leave their friend and jump in your car.
Yes.
Uncle have you to himself.
Correct. And we normally will tell the children, listen, do not speak to strangers. Do not take drop from strangers. But remember, I introduced her to uncle the other day.
Yes.
So he's not a stranger.
Correct.
Right?
Yes. Correct.
So I understand what she's saying. So we need to be careful with that.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you.
Although, I mean, most of us would have grown up calling our parents, friends and other things, auntie and
Yeah, but that was forced on me too, and I ain't doing it no more. No, I ain't doing it
times
no
have
more.
changed, and we have to look at everybody side eye, I suppose.
Yeah. Side eye is right. I'm not calling nobody auntie who's not my mother, daughter, sister. Sorry, I'm not doing it. Shortman, could you put up the TNT guy, which one it is? Oh, video, image B, please. And Trinidad and Tobago, before Ashford Balfour gets here, he should be here by now. Alan, sorry. Ashford. Well, I name as Ashford.
Oh,
But he's
okay.
Alan. Yeah. 2 weeks ago, after his home was burnt down, at 32, and ma'am, there's a problem we have in Trinidad and Tobago. People cannot walk away. You see this image here is a mother and 2 sons. Now, she's grieving for her son. Now, a video went viral recently, and this falls within our realm, and people say this is why I'm dealing with it. A video went viral recently where a guy, till he got the nickname Mr. Bamboo, or Bamboo Man, where he beat up, I think it was a URP worker or CPEP worker because he said the man disrespected his son, whatever. But he well beat this man. And he was shot recently. But there's something that the mother said that I've been telling people, be careful with what you put in your system. Because the mother said, now let me just read this first part. Mika Singh, who was popularly known as Bamboo Man, was shot into the limelight in March after a video of an altercation between himself and a worker in Palmies Park went viral. He had beaten the man with a bamboo stick after he was allegedly attacked with a cutlass. Now, the mother said, since he started to smoke, he started to behave hyper. Hyper in the sense like not in a bad way, but annoying people around him. Now, I listened to the young man when he was speaking on the video, and he did sound a little irrational. But again, you must know, people, not because marijuana is decriminalized and everybody can plant marijuana in the backyard now, that you will go and buy marijuana from him. Because of that easy access to it now from people, there are people who put in chemicals and different types of opioids in their marijuana to make it stronger than the next block. Please, people, be careful. Be careful. I am seeing certain types of behavior in people that relates. The thing is, when drugs was available to us back in the day, I had access to crack cocaine, but it was a different sort of quality. Now, it is just pure chemical, just pure. Just this morning, Natasha and I come in, we saw Sheldon again.
Yes.
On his Sheldon Aberdeen. Sketch, known as Sketch. If you see him now, folks, I'm ashamed to tell you all, but I understand. I understand because he decided to take a chance and wake up that giant he had sleeping inside of him. Sheldon was doing good. Sheldon got fat. He came here a couple of times on our program, show people all the model planes that he made and all of these things. Sheldon back on the street again.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
He's back on the street
But
again.
did he get help?
He did.
Professional help?
Yes, he was getting help. But there's a thing about mental ill health and drug use.
Right.
It's a catch-22.
Okay.
You know,
So
and
you
the
have to have that
slightest
support, right?
Relapse
True.
is a feature of the disease,
Yes.
unfortunately.
Yes.
So you must get that support, right?
And the
true.
people who's taking care of him must know
Yes.
that, and those of you out there who listening, I want you to understand this. Not because you taking care of somebody and feel that they beholden to you and now you pay for their rehab and that means you're going to work them like a slave.
No, you can't.
You
gosh.
cannot do that.
Yeah,
And I think that was part of his problem. And you cannot work somebody from Saturday to Saturday. Give them 1 day rest, especially when they're in recovery.
Yeah.
You cannot do that. Because eventually, when I'm in an environment where I am forced to do hard labor, I'm waking up every morning tired, going to bed tired. That's part of the relapse right there.
Yes.
It's just waiting to happen.
Yeah.
And one day,
the fact that he was living alone as well might have contributed.
yes,
he
that
lived
too.
alone.
He lived alone.
But you see, and that too, because when he come home tired, he have nobody to talk to.
Nobody
That's
to
it.
talk
And explain to them what he's going through.
And he's seen all
So that
kind
they
of
could go back and talk to the employer. Right? The thing is, you cannot work me to the bone because one day, you just have to say the right word. And while I scrubbing that car, sweeping that yard, I might tell myself, you know what the hell are you going through this for? When I could go on my own and do this and make my own money and have you talking to me how you want and treating me how you want just because you paid for my rehab, just because you gave me food to eat, hell with that, I go back on the street. And that is what happens to an addict. You see, people who only read about this in book wouldn't really understand that part of it. I understand it.
You walk the road.
Yeah. So I'm telling you, don't put me in a position, and I'm speaking to families out there now who have addicts in their home recovery, and you still want them to prove themselves. I'm speaking to the addict now, or the person in recovery. Even if you have to walk away from your own family for your own sanity, do that. I'm telling you from experience. Do not allow your family to put you in a position where they're always holding up a mirror to you. Everybody has a mirror in their hand, And every time they talk to you, remember this and remember that and remember, and you trying your best to walk the straight and narrow and do the right thing, and you constantly remind them, you don't have to put up with that.
And that is why when you see how families like that, everybody must go to the counseling,
Thank you.
Understand how to respond to
That's
the
right.
addict. Yeah.
Yes. So if you have a family who, I don't want to hear that, I don't want to do about that. You say you stop using drugs and you still if you see, anytime you have a family who don't want to learn about addiction, why it happens, and why you went down that road, friends, as much as it might hurt, don't let anybody back you into against a wall because you're going to use that and relapse. And that is what they will want.
Dangerous.
Yeah? Ashford, morning. Come on the side now. Come by. Or come by me. Let everybody see who Ashford is. Come by me. This is a good brother. It's almost, I talk more a brother. Welcome. Yes. And thank you very much. Tell us about this event you had. First of all, come closer to the mic. And we're speaking with Artistic Director of Trinity Dance Theatre.
Correct.
Mr. Alan Balfour. I tell him I knew as Ashford. And you decided to do this and assisting the Counter Trafficking Unit, the end result of it. Tell us why you came up with this idea and how you got so close to trafficking. Because all these years I'm familiar with you, I never knew you had this experience as well.
Sure. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me, Garth, and hostess. Well, this is an artistic production called Alpha that is taking place this weekend, last night and tonight at the Queen's Hall. This evening at 6:30. It's primarily a dance production, but what happens is that in dance and in forming the dance company Trinity Dance Theatre, I always found that it's important to have a social issue or some principle discussed or presented. Right. We go to shows and we're entertained and stuff, which is very good. It relaxes us. It's a part of stress relief. It re-energizes us and inspires. And that's all great, and you will get that at this show. But it's also good to have something that will make you think about what is important in society so that you as an individual can have a perspective, be sensitized, and even be part of change. And so that my involvement in human trafficking by volunteering to organizations and stuff, incidentally, it's kind of stumbled that way, got me to see what happens to the victims. As a dad myself, I don't have daughters, but I have nieces. And I just translate the fact that we're dealing with 14-year-olds who are pregnant based on the circumstance and away from their families and that sort of thing, and victimized to the highest degree. That could be my niece, And so that I really thought about the fact that we can't just look at this and say that it's somebody else's problem. We're not home. It is home. It is in Trinidad pervasive, not only with migrants, but also with our local girls and some boys too. Yeah. And the victimization is really severe. And when I saw that and dealing with the girls, helping with the victim care and rehabilitation, that got me involved in it. It only happened in the past 4 years, 5 years, but it's enough to get me to make a statement.
So you were emotionally affected in a way by this too, right? Because I read in the article where you spoke about a friend that you were familiar with and what happened to them.
What happened is that there was someone that I knew that actually almost got kidnapped, and they got away, and it coming that close to home, sent a message to me. But the people that I actually got close to were actually the victims, and sometimes they start calling you Papa, because they want to hold on to somebody that has a family connection, and so that is where I got close to those people, those children and those young people, and that really helped me to understand the whole issue. And it affected me. If I saw that some of them would have gone back, or you always have to be guarded because you don't know if the person who's in charge of them going to come and kidnap them. And there's that fear element and that sort of thing. So it by the grace of God, the Lord kept me in terms of not being messed up totally. But you always had you will always have that sympathy and that empathy towards them. And so, you had to keep yourself balanced while you show a strong face to care for them.
But I'm interested, Alan, sorry to cut you, Garth, in that process of you wanting to represent your emotions and the issue of human trafficking and gender-based violence through dance. How do you go about preparing your dancers to do that kind of depiction, and what kind of preparation do you go through to get them in the right frame of mind?
Yeah, great question. Well, we talk about it a lot first. This is not something that a dancer who's technically trained can just really capture just if you give them steps and instructions. They have to have a perspective as to what the person goes through and a macro view of the whole scene. And so we talk about it a lot first. We talk about what the victims go through. We try to make them understand and visualize that this could be somebody. Sometimes when we think about victims, we think about people who might be on the streets or low lives and that sort of thing. I remember watching that show, Taken, with Liam Neeson. Yeah. That was no low-life girl that got taken in Europe. Correct. Right? Mm-hmm. That was a middle-class girl with a father who was a good job and everything like that. And they were in the wrong position at the wrong time, and they got taken. Mm-hmm. And yes, sometimes they look for the most vulnerable people, but it could be anybody. So I try to make them understand that this could be you. This could be your family member. And we start with that. Then we go through the movements, and we apply, okay, what did you understand about it, and apply that to the movement. But I have to tell you, the girls were phenomenal. We have girls from all different backgrounds, and they all, when we showed that piece before we went to the show, we had a panel of all the people in the arts, most of our respected people in the arts, and half of them were crying. The girls were phenomenal. They really invested themselves into it, and so that I really have to take hats off to them, and they understood the responsibility. Yeah, so the process was basically that.
So they understood the assignment. Shortman, put back up the billboard. So this show started last evening, and I mean, who would ever thought, I'm familiar with you all these years, and you're sitting alongside Claire Guy-Alleyne, Superintendent here, and you all working on behalf of collaborating with the Counter Trafficking Unit. This show started at Queen's Hall last evening. How did it go?
Last night went very well. The response from the audience was excellent. A couple of people said they have to come back again. They thought it was something special that people should witness. And I knew once, by the grace of God, once we had reached that target in terms of being clean, the dancers being, doing what they have to do, being clean, presenting the work, that it would more or less have that kind of effect. And so last night went really well, and we're hoping that people do come out, even spontaneously today. At Queen's Hall. It's at 6:30. And this show has a bit of everything. We have the piece on the trafficking, and thanks to the Counter Trafficking Unit and our patron, Donna Cox, Ministry of Social Minister in Social Development and Family Services. She's our patron for the show. She's come on board and really supported. They have a remit for victim care as well. So that ministry, along with Counter Trafficking Unit and IOM, they've come on board to support in ways that we're really, really appreciative of. And the show is not only, and part proceeds go towards victim care.
Right.
Yeah. But the show is a varied show in terms of there's a piece called Alpha, which is about finding yourself. You always want to put yourself first, Alpha meaning first. But in order to go first, sometimes you have to be last, to humble yourself and let the Almighty go forward before you, and He will take you first. So there's an entertaining piece that we're doing with classical work, and a fusion of classical and Caribbean work with the Cascade Festival Ballet. And there's a piece called Sonido Separia, which is merging Venezuelan culture with Trinidad culture, and the mix that you will see coming aboard, and that's with drums and stuff. So we should have an entertaining show. Yeah.
You speaking there, and remember my days at Arawak's dance company as a drummer.
Yes.
And so I could understand that you're actually telling a story in dance, using dance to tell the story and reach an audience, and that is a lot of hard work. I want people to know that. So again, people, this evening at Queen's Hall, you could tell us if people want to get some tickets now, or they want to, how do they go about it?
Yeah, they can get tickets at the box office at Queen's Hall when they come, or they could go online to the Queen's Hall website and purchase tickets. Or if you have any questions or anything concerning tickets or anything about the show, you can call 744-2380. That's 744-2380, and we'll be happy to help you.
Okay. So once again, we have two citizens. If you're just joining us, you missed a lot, but we have two very conscientious citizens in studio with us. And like I said, Alan Balfour and Terry, what's Terry's surname again?
Terry Springer.
Springer.
Yes.
Terry Springer. Terry is also an interpreter with the Counter Trafficking Unit. So it all ties in. These are all good people, folks. And if you want to take the family out this evening, you can do so. Carry them to Queen's Hall and enjoy a good evening of entertainment. You want to tell us the cost of the ticket?
Tickets are $175.
Very reasonable.
Yeah.
Very reasonable. Those of you who have any questions for Ms. Claire Guy-Alleyne, Superintendent Claire Guy-Alleyne or Alan, please give us a call now at 622-3937 as we come close to wrapping up our Dependency for another Sunday. And those of you, remember, the YouTube family, I know a lot of you, some of you having problems with Facebook. Like I said, I don't understand why on a Sunday this happens, but you can also drop over on, thank God we have the YouTube channel, EYEON Dependency. Please join us there. And remember to like and subscribe while you're there. So you can call us at 622-3937. Ma'am, any closing and final comments for Trinidad and Tobago?
As usual, I want to extend to Trinidad and Tobago. Safeguarding our nation's children is very important. Creating that atmosphere where nurturing our children is done with no violence of any kind, be it physical or sexual. Let us create that environment. Let us also create the environment where children can be free to speak and speak about anything, whether it's affecting them, whether they are pleased about someone. Let us allow our children to have a voice.
622-3937. Hello. Good morning. Hello?
Hello? Hello.
Good morning. Yes, ma'am. You're live.
Morning to you. Good morning, everyone.
Morning,
Excellent
good
show.
morning.
Quickly, you spoke about child pornography and the laws that are against that being shared on the net and on social media. We have had a proliferation of things being shared when children are in fights, having fights at school and outside of school. Is there any law against that, sharing that? I am really tired of seeing, having a diet of that sent to my phone. Is there any law that prohibits that? I would listen off air.
Thank you very much.
What I can say is that when it comes to children and publishing photos of children, only the courts of Trinidad and Tobago, a judge or a master could make such, or a magistrate could make such order for a photo of a child to be displayed in the public. So what I would express to the general public, those school fights that we like to take videos and upload, we need to desist from doing so. If you're a citizen and you have taped a fight or some sort of information involving children, once it's not child sexual assault material, we are asking persons to take it to the nearest police station so that an investigation can be commenced. We need to desist from sharing those school fights. Because when those school fights are shared, it doesn't only affect the persons who are in the video, it affects the families, friends, and it affects the entire society. It pushes the society into a stage of trauma and shock.
Yeah.
So we need to desist and let us do the correct thing. Nearest police station, investigation.
Thank you. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Garth, and good morning to Mr. Guy-Alleyne, Mrs. Guy-Alleyne. I just want to comment on the good job that she's doing. But Garth, there's supposed to be a 40-hour work week, that's law. So nobody is supposed to be working anybody work on that. That's a start off there.
Yeah.
All right, and I just comment and say good work. And I just want to ask you and your wifey, I hope you all didn't eat any pastries this week with any maggots.
Absolutely not. That was horrific, though.
Me and a good friend, we spoke for a whole hour on karma, boy. Karma is really real.
It is.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
It is, but no, that is a really horrific incident,
It's the most disgusting, repulsive video I've ever seen
in a while.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sad to know. I would have been throwing up still.
Well,
listen, I would have stopped it.
I am so glad that
I prepared it.
So glad that I am vegan, and we really need to be careful about buying food from people and eating in people's house.
Hello, good morning.
Careful.
Hello, good morning. You live on the air?
Morning.
All you need really to back that volume off.
Wonderful work that you all are doing.
Thank you.
Good day, sir.
Are you from Belmont by any chance?
No, born and bred in Tobago.
Oh, born and bred in Tobago.
God. Yes.
I think parents are responsible for the situation that we are in. Right? We allow these children these phones, God. We don't monitor them. And you know why? Because we tell ourselves that it's all right. We don't have to monitor them, and that we free to behave how we want, because they are right there, and we don't monitor these children with their phone and what they see on the phone and this sort of thing. And these phones have everything. Don't tell the gang culture and all that they look at, right? And I think we are burying our head in the sand and creating monsters because these phones have so much information that parents don't monitor. They don't care really to monitor because it's all right. They have free time to do what they want and they just do what they want. God, long time, when they have family together, everybody would come together at lunch and eat on a table, right? Or sometimes we'd have family meeting together. On evening time, everybody would sit down and watch a TV show or something. That has been replaced by the phone. There's no longer family unity, family nothing. So everything is replaced by the phone now. Yeah. And the phone have everything on it, God. Everything.
Even if they're sitting by the dinner table having dinner, they still have the phone next to the plate.
These children should be giving me two phones, not this sophisticated phone that could do everything.
No, you looking about
I agree with that. That is happening in some other countries. They're moving to restrict access to smartphones for children.
Yeah, because
children under a certain
all the children need is to talk to their mother and father at school or something like that. What are you doing with all these sophisticated phone that have so much information and so much ability to get to all kind of things on the phone? The gang culture on the phone too,
Yes. Thank you very much, sir. Thanks a lot. 622-3937. Hello, good morning. Morning.
Good morning, Gata Natasha.
Morning there, how are you?
People. Good man. Listen, that phone thing, you see that phone? I said the next family gathering I put in a special box by the door. I tell them, all man coming through that door, put all your phone there.
I agree.
Because we sit together, everybody we jamming on one another, and everybody on their phone.
Yes.
I said, but we could stop conversing just now.
Yes.
So I told them, I said, the next time all you come in here preparing a box.
That's right.
The phones, all you dropping it right there. I don't want all you around my table at all with no phone. Don't put it away. Anyhow, there was one point I didn't agree with the officer this morning. I want to say what I think I'm in slight disagreement with. You see the part when she said girls must be seen and not heard? I think I understood what our parents meant long ago.
Back then.
Is that you wouldn't be loud and boisterous and, you understand? And brawlish, as the old people used to say. But if there is something that you need to speak to your parents on, like anybody interfering with you, touching you, so of course you will speak up. But I quite understand. You realize these days the girls very brawlish and wayward and fighting and getting on in the streets. You see them? Yeah. Girls must be seen and not heard, young girls. And when we say heard, not heard, we mean in the way in which they conduct themselves. So we quite think I have a slight disagreement there. That is what we understood as not being heard. Loud and boisterous and wayward behavior that they're going on with.
Yes.
You all continue the good program. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Same there. Take one more.
I think all girls should be seen and heard.
Seen and heard.
In all aspects.
I agree. And when we're speaking about behavior, you be specific and say that this behavior is unacceptable and this behavior is acceptable.
That's all.
But that statement where girls must be seen and not heard.
Hello?
Hello, good
Hi,
morning.
good morning.
Yes, good morning. Good morning to all.
Morning.
I will just like to encourage everyone, if possible, to go and see that show by Alan Balfour. He's a schoolmate of mine. A neighbor took me to this show. I didn't even know it was, his show. But I was pleasantly surprised and proud of him. And those dancers are excellent. And it's a giveaway for 175.
Yes,
Please,
I agree.
Thank you so much.
Go and support him. He's a hard worker, dedicated, and you will not be disappointed. Congratulations, Alan, again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for that recommendation.
And we could end on that note. Yes. We could end on that high note. Thank you so much, Superintendent Claire Guy-Alleyne, soon to be Senior Superintendent Claire Guy-Alleyne. Looking forward to that.
Yes.
And
I think my cousin is a member of your group, Joanna.
Oh, really?
That's my family.
Wow.
So if you don't need any more recommendation than that, but please, if you can, please check out Alpha at Queen's Hall this evening. 175 tickets.
Please.
You're in for an experience.
And remember that part of that support will go to the Counter Trafficking Unit.
Yes.
So
victims
they
and
have double
survivors
reasons
of
to
human
support.
trafficking.
Go and be entertained and be part of a worthy cause. Folks, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
You've been wonderful.
Yes.
As for thank you for leaving church and coming here. And thanks a lot. So
it's always a pleasure being
always
here.
A pleasure being here with you too.
Yes.
And thank you. Keep
ma'am.
up the good work. We know
Thank you.
your job is not an easy one. It requires a lot of emotional intelligence and emotional strength. And we want to, God guide you and your unit, as well as the Counter Trafficking Unit. Keep doing the work on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you.
And
thank
protecting
you.
us. Take care.
Yes.
Folks, thank you. It was indeed another informative and educational edition of Our Dependency. Thanks a lot, Stormington, for staying with us. And we have major news up next with Miss Onika
And
James.
don't forget, as you leave our live stream on YouTube and Facebook, please drop a like and a comment on the live. It really helps us to keep us going.
And if you joined us late, you can, after the program, you can go back to the page and get it from the beginning. All right, take care, folks. Have a safe and wonderful week, productive week as well.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I-95.5 FM, the most influential name in radio, puts the station in the palm of your hand. Get ready for